Today I want to take a little different approach to what Murray and Richard teach. I'm kind of going to approach it from the viewpoint of what does it feel like, this technique, this way of holding the stick and moving the stick. What does it feel like what you're playing? In other words, what am I feeling? When I'm practicing, what is it I'm trying to visualize to get my body to do? And that's a big part of technique. In any physical endeavor or motion, like in sports, you always have a coach that observes the person as they work out. And the coach, if they see you're doing a little something inefficient or that doesn't lead to the outcome you're working on in your particular sport, the coach can point that out to you, and then you can observe that in your own mind and your own imagination. As you're visualizing getting your body to do that, you add that information to what you're trying to visualize. And that's all I can do for any of you guys that want to study this. I'm your coach. I will watch what you're doing and correct you or give you little suggestions depending on what you're doing, so that you eventually feel what I'm talking about. What does it feel like to have a fulcrum in the middle finger as opposed to up here in the first two fingers, where most of you have probably been doing it because that's what most of the teachers in drum books say you do. And I'm not saying this is wrong. What I'm saying is this is an older marching way of holding the stick and playing music, and what Murray and Richard was teaching is rooted in orchestral and drum set playing, not playing marching drums. Okay, so it's a little different approach to the snare drum. And that's what Murray and Richard teach, is the snare drum. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you could get Richard to teach you stuff on the drum set. But he was so advanced and so far beyond where any of us are that he would give you something so crazy it would take you, 2 years to figure out how to do it. Anyway, anybody that studied with Richard knows what I'm talking about. Now, getting back to the simplicity or the feeling of things, because a child prodigy on drums feels this and just does it. He doesn't think about it. Well, okay, what is that he's doing? Well, just put your sticks down and stand up and walk around your house or go outside, and I want you to walk around. What's it feel like? What are you doing when you walk? You probably don't think about it, but when you're a little kid, if you got little kids, if you're if you're raising children, you see them. Kind of like when they learn to walk, it's like, whoa, how do I do this? And how do I balance? And then once they figure out, feet on the ground, gravity, got it. They never train to run. Once they know how to walk and keep their balance, the muscles are strong enough to keep them up and they're walking, their brain goes, I smell dinner, and they can run into the kitchen. They didn't practice it. How did they do it? Well, that's how you want to play the drums. You want to get the motion right. Learn to walk. And once you really train that into your muscles, into your mind and body, your mind can command it to go as fast as you are as a human being. How fast you electrically fire, that's your speed limit. Now, if you want more speed beyond your natural ability, the only way to do that is to build more muscle so that there's more nerve fiber, and then you might have the hope of it twitching faster. And you can train for fast twitch muscles. But I'm not sure what those exercises would be with your wrists. That may not, when you add weight to your wrist, you start to tense things up in here, and now you're working against that tension in the muscle to move. So I don't know, building this up with weights, does that give you enough strength to go past the tension you're adding in here from the lifting? I don't know, because I've never used weights. I just hold drumsticks and play. I just play a lot. That's how I get it. And most drummers, that's kind of what they've done. I know there are guys out there that do train with weights. I know Thomas Lang does that, and there's other guys that advocate that, but I don't have any knowledge of that right now. I have no objection to learning it. I just don't know who plays the drums. Is Vinnie Colaiuta or the great drummers that I love that just played the drums a lot, you know, that know the actual physical way to add a weight and not mess everything up. Because I don't want to add tension. The one thing I learned, because I had a lot of tension from bashing and being a rock drummer before I got to Murray, that I had to learn how to get rid of all that tension to learn how to do these things. I had to visualize it and feel it, and that's what I'm talking about right now. So, walking is like playing single strokes. I lift my foot up, and the instant I stop lifting, gravity goes on and pulls it down. I'm not driving the stick into the drum. Yes, I can do that, but that's not the fundamental motion. The fundamental motion is with gravity, and that's what governs your speed. As fast as you go up is as fast as it goes down. Okay? Not the more force you add down makes it goes faster. Yeah, that's what people try to do. They try to go faster by dribbling faster. And you will find you get to a certain speed where the tension of catching and pushing down tenses you up, and you won't go faster than that unless you tense up more. And once you tense up like that, try moving around your drums all tense. You can't move your body around quick if you're tense. But if you just lift and tap, you can go anywhere. It's taking a step. You pick up your foot and take a step. Or you hop from rock to rock across a stream. You hop. I hop. It's a natural motion, up to come down. Now the other thing I want to mention is when you're walking around, hop up and down. And then try to hop as high as you can and feel what happens. There's a difference. You hop a little, you get a little force. You hop as high as you can and you come down with more force. But nothing ever grabbed you when you were in the air and threw you down. And that's why you don't grab the stick and throw it down. It's against gravity. It's not efficient. Now, yes, it might, in your mind, you look cool when you do all this motion. If that's your goal, wave your arms around and look cool. But that's not what I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying to show you how do you just play single strokes and how do you get them faster and what is efficient. Efficient is with gravity. Now the hopping, you get more force when the mass goes higher, the mass of your body, and it goes back to the mathematical equation of gravity multiplied by mass equals force. Okay, gravity's pulling stuff down, your arm and the stick are mass, and those two things multiply, create force. And force is what creates volume, how loud you are. So, you need to induce force by using gravity, not by throwing it down as hard as you can to get the force, because that's against gravity. Now you're holding against gravity. Throw it down, hold against gravity. Throw it down, hold. You're always holding against gravity and firing instead of lifting, relaxing. The instant you stop lifting, now I'm relaxed, I'm falling to the drum. So in between every lift is a relax. I'm not firing my muscle as much as you guys are, and that is more efficient. That's what leads to a better form of technique, at least in my concept. If this is what you want, you can shut off the video right now. Okay, so up to come down, use gravity and develop single strokes and a way to strike. Now, how do you add more force? Well, that was Murray's concept of a stroke. When you raise the wrist straight up, and you allow the weight of the hand and the stick to stay right there at the floor. That tip is right where it was when I started. It's just sitting there because I'm raising this. If you notice, my elbow, turn, look how far away it is from the body. This is not a molar, excuse me. This is not a molar motion. The molar advocates you move the elbow out, and this follows the elbow, and then you add that downward force to this, and a lot of guys advocate pushing it down into the body. Some guys relax and come down with it. Other guys push it really hard. Both ways create force, okay? But I'm not leading with this. I'm not moving all this big stuff. I'm moving just the wrist, the little wrist up. And if you notice, as you come up, straight up, the wrist tugs on the elbow and the elbow tugs on the upper arm, and the weight, everything from my shoulder is in play because the wrist is moving it. Just like when you pitch a ball, the wrist is holding the ball and moving it around, and this all naturally follows. Right? Follows on the windup. You engage it however you do to throw a ball, whatever kind of pitch you're making. But I engage it by turning my wrist as I come down. And the faster I do it, the louder it gets. And if I go a little higher, the louder it gets too. But I have to go even a little faster. But I'm allowing gravity to pull me down. I'm falling after I exert. I exert and fall. That is the fundamental thing in this you have to feel when you're playing. And if you've been firing down into the drum or throwing it down and following it back or yanking with your fingers on every note when you want your fingers to be still and just hold the stick, those feelings are going to be counter to what I'm trying to get you to do and what Murray and Richard teach. So this is actually a lot simpler than timpani technique and all these things where you move your fingers and do all this other stuff. It's just like walking up and come down. Hop and come down with more force. It's that simple, it really is. But you have to feel it and move in an efficient way to produce that feeling. Okay? So, I am your coach. If you study with me, I observe how you make motions and I give suggestions how to correct the motion so that you start to feel what I'm talking about. Because if you're doing something else, it does take some time to overrule what you've taught yourself to feel and learn to feel the difference between the two things. The one you've been doing and the new one you want to learn. But once you start to feel it, there's a, how do I describe this? My experience was very often I would be working on something, fixing something in my technique because I used to let go and I used to want to yank with my fingers because I had done so much finger stuff at one time playing timpani and just yanking and grabbing. I didn't know how to keep my hand still because I would hear a note in my mind and my hand would just do what it had done for 15 years playing in bands. And it's like, well, wait a second. What I'm doing isn't getting it done the way I really want it to be. And so I had to analyze those things. And I had to practice slow for a while. But the thing I want to get at is when you feel it, it's kind of like a light bulb goes off in your mind and it's like, oh, that's what it is. And you feel it, and now you got it. It's like, oh, I practiced this and searched for it for so long. And it's, once you feel it, it's almost like you got it. Because I've already been playing drums, I understand rhythm, I understand what I want to do with it. And then when you feel it, it's like, oh, Jesus. The other thing is, it's so fucking simple. It's so, Richard Martinez said this one time when we were hanging out and talking. He said, he's teaching us to do nothing. And that's a truth in a way, what Richard was doing. Because all of us were so overplaying and overdoing things, and he would just sit there and barely move and play 3 times faster and louder than all of us. I mean, I experienced him making a motion about this high, and he could do it so fast and hard. It was just so fast that when the stick hit, the pad would actually hop off the floor. That's how much force he was creating in just a few inches. But he was so fast up and down. It was just like a blink of the eye and would go whap. He didn't have to do what you saw me doing to create that much force because of the speed up. And because he had started at 3 years old. That gives him that speed. That's what he said. He taught thousands of people and he kind of felt that your body is wired at a certain speed by the time you're my age. I was like 21 or 2. No, I was 25 when I met him. So I had been playing for a long time before that. I was 20 when I met Murray. I had already been playing since I was 14 and I was in bands that whole time. 5 and 6 night-a-week gigs. Play, play, play. That's what we all did back then. You guys don't get to do that because now there's DJs and sports bars with screens and all those restaurants and clubs that used to all have bands. Every bar and nightclub here in Los Angeles, down along the beach where I lived, everybody had a band. There were 25, 30 bands between Redondo Beach and Santa Monica working every night. It was lots of work, lots of places to learn to play and go out and be in bands and do rock and roll, which was just kind of starting up. So that was the advantage I had in one way, is I could learn to play by feel because there were so many bands and people to play with. It was easy. That I didn't realize the opportunity that I just fell into at that time. But you guys got to go out and hunt down more opportunities to play. It's a little different world now. So, but that's ultimately what this is all about, is playing with other people and learning to play drums the way you hear it in your imagination, what you feel is appropriate for that music you're playing. That is something you will learn by playing with other people and listening to music. A teacher can't give you that part of it. You have to do it. So, but I can be your coach. I can give you little corrections that will guide you more quickly to the things you want to feel. That's all I can do as a teacher for you. Be your coach. But without a coach, how do you really know what it is you want to tell your body to do? How do you know you're even telling it to do the right thing? And I will end this video with a little story. I lived at the beach for many, many years. I was an ocean swimmer. And when Richard Wilson discovered ocean swimming, he suddenly decided that Sunday, his day off, he was coming down to the beach at my house. And he started showing up every Sunday to go swimming in the ocean, which was no problem to me because I swam in the ocean every day. That was my thing, swim in the ocean. I'm a California kid, surfing the ocean. Anyway, him coming down every Sunday, once all the other students and drummers knew that Richard Wilson's at Jack's house on Sunday, it's the drum hang. Suddenly, 8, 10 drummers would be at my house all hanging out waiting for Richard to show up to go swimming. And, you know, I would entertain them all by taking out my VCR tapes of Buddy Rich and different people playing drums. And everybody's, you know, there's 10 guys in my living room watching Buddy Rich play. And Richard arrives to go swimming. And he looks at me and goes, "Come here." And I follow him into my kitchen. And he says, "You know, you can't learn to play, you can't learn technique from watching Buddy Rich's videos." And I looked at him and I went, "Oh, what do you mean?" Because I would watch him and pick little paradiddle motions up and crossover. I would pick up licks, but I didn't really know how he was doing what he did. How do you go that fast? And that's what kind of what Richard said. He says, you won't see technique until you feel it. He says, if you could get technique by watching a video, we could all watch Buddy Rich one time and we'd have it. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks at the time. I was kind of like, you know, he's right. But I didn't know what he mean until years later when I had improved my traditional grip enough to turn and stop yanking with my fingers like I had been taught, and I got it still. And then I saw the strength of Buddy Rich's hand position and how strong and accurate his wrists were and how he used gravity. Yeah, he moves his fingers and does other things, but he has that fundamental rotation of the wrist. It is so fast. It's like Richard, it's like Louis Bellson, all guys I observed up close. They all have that ability. They understand how to move it with gravity. Whether they're conscious of it or not, I don't know. I never talked to Buddy that or Louis that way about it. Whether they're conscious of the fact that they're using gravity that way or not, I don't know. But when you start to feel it working that way, and I was no longer using my bicep and my fingers and doing all this weird shit I'd been taught by other teachers, then I recognized it in Buddy's playing. So you don't see it in other people's playing until you feel it yourself. And then you can see, oh yeah, that guy does it. Oh, he's got a little bit of it because he started when he was 5 years old. So some people get pieces of it because all of this stuff ultimately is natural. What is natural is what's most efficient. Okay, Richard was a genius, so I don't know, geniuses might stumble and shit the rest of us ought miss. But anyway, he was one hell of a drummer and he was a good teacher, and the statement that you won't get it by watching a Buddy Rich video is really true. You have to know what it is you're looking for. And you won't see it until you feel it. And all I can do is help you feel it. That's my goal when I teach my students, is get them to feel the fulcrum, get them to feel gravity, get them to feel the mass transferring. When you feel those things, the light bulb goes off and you're on your way. You really won't need a teacher, because you will understand what you're doing wrong or what your limitations are and what you want to accomplish. And then it's just have fun. Play your drums and practice and develop. Develop your voice and develop your ideas. Once you're on the path and you know where you're going, you're on your way. And that's my job as a coach, teacher, whatever. Anyway, I hope these concepts get you thinking a little about what you're doing. Play your drums, feel how your body's moving, go out and walk and hop around a little, and then think about that principle of how gravity moves things and how your body moves within the field of gravity, and then analyze how you're playing. Are you playing timpani grip and rotating your wrist? Are you playing regular and waving your wrist? Are you yanking with your fingers? Or are you moving your wrist and letting your wrist move your fingers by itself? These are all things I talked about in the other videos, so go back and watch them if you're curious. But the main thing is it efficient? What do you feel? What do you feel in relation to what I've talked about? That's how you get on the path of this way of playing. Hope that helps. Have fun.